Hey there, comic friends, I'm Travis. It's time for an edition of What the Fugue, where I talk about what's going on with me in my world of comics. How's it going, everybody? Very cold and miserable, wet, rainy day here. But at any rate, let's talk some comic book stuff. Comic book type news that's going on. Let's see. They've established who is going to direct the Wonder Woman movie. Drawing a blank on her name right now. I know that she produces and directs a lot of the Game of Thrones stuff, so kind of excited by that. It's probably a pretty good thing to have a woman in charge of what's going on there. That, if nothing else, at minimum, takes away the scrutiny of if there's something wrong with it. It's because the genders involved weren't directing it in the right way or whatever. So, anyway, good. I mean, I've liked the work that's been done, so I don't see there being a problem. Excited to see names being attached to it as far as the creative forces there. Just means it's that much closer to being a reality of actually us getting that movie, which I'm excited for. I think it's going to be pretty cool. Let's see what else is going on. I can't think of any other comic book oriented type news, so I'm just going to talk about other stuff. Earlier this week, Ghost Critic, for those of you who aren't familiar with Ghost Critic, just type it in the search bar in Google there, you'll find Mark. He does a Monday question of the week thing and then answers a bunch of questions. It's always fun. I don't always comment, but I typically watch the show and see what the question is and at least amuse it to myself what the answers might be to those questions that either he poses or other people pose. In this case, it was had to do with legitimizing your comic books. That maybe we review or talk about the comic books the way we do, and I'm paraphrasing my interpretation of what Mark meant, and kind of other people's comments about it, and extrapolating from that, that we potentially discuss our books in a highbrow fashion or whatever to garnish them some sort of legitimacy. And I don't really feel like that's the case. It's certainly not the case with me. I don't talk about them the way I do to legitimize comic books. I may talk about creator-owned and non-superhero comic books in that fashion to some degree to hopefully move some of the masses that are only reading superhero genre and don't realize that there's all this other great comic book stuff out there, though right now it feels like there's this giant heyday of independent work out there. It'd be hard to imagine that there are people who don't know that stuff's out there, but then maybe they're encouraged to branch out and read some of their stuff. Or, heck, you just are browsing, YouTube and watching random videos and you land on my channel long enough during a no cape or whatever, and I'm talking about that to maybe show for people who don't understand that are completely outside of the comic book world that, of course, there are all these other genres out there that that there are comic books about besides superheroes. Because I don't feel like comic books in this day and age need anything to be legitimized anyway, because you've got these clearly movies that are making millions and millions and millions of dollars. So, the acknowledgement is there. For a large number of years, academia has been using some of those books, V for Vendetta, Watchmen, in different fashions or another, within academia in college, and not just discussing the topic, but actually how they're written and those sorts of things. Back in the day, the Sandman issues that had the kind of Midsummer Night's Dream-esque stuff going on in it. Of course, those won, what was it, a Nebula, Hugo? One of those big awards. They ended up changing it after that because writers at the time were upset that a comic book could, win a literary award. But I think all those things pretty much legitimize comic books. And I don't, as a general rule, I don't think I'm making these videos for anybody who isn't already a fan of comics, and so I don't think I need to legitimize comics to, any of you out there as a general rule. I may emphasize a particular book to get people interested, if for nothing else, my own selfish desires to keep my book afloat and keep my book in print. Yeah, I don't think so. And along those lines, part of the conversation was about how people review and all that sort of stuff. And for me, I talk about comic books the way that I talk about comic books, because that's how I enjoy talking about them, and that's how I've learned to talk about them. And I've talked about them that way for a very long time, way before there was any type of social media whatsoever. I have some physical comic book friends that I used to collect with. I'm still in contact with some of them, and we would talk comic books. We would talk comic books, everything from, wow, wasn't that cool how Spider-Man punched Mephisto in the face, to emotionally, how are they using this character in a book? I mean, we talked about all that kinds of stuff. Just because clearly we were interested in all of that. Me and some of my friends kind of build ourselves as potential writers. Well, we weren't potential, we did write. So we looked at those books that way. Lots of times when I'm doing my reviews and I'm talking about books, I don't always get into nitty-gritty of every single book and whatnot. My videos would be far too long. They're already probably too long for most people to watch them. But I easily could. I love to talk craft. I love to talk about inkers, colorists, page layouts, how the page is put together, how the page moves from one page to the next page, where does it make your eye go to. I love talking about all that nuts and bolts of what makes sequential art awesome. And there are times when I do. When something really strikes me as being impressive, I'm going to talk about those things. I think about them all the time. Even when I'm not actually reading the books, I think about them. And I love to talk the economics of comic books. That's interesting to me too. I love to talk the social ramifications of what's being told in the story or not being told in the story. And I like talking about the books on a personal level. What did it mean to me? How did it make me feel? What do I think is going to happen? And then I like talking about them as being fluffy entertainment too, depending on what the book it is. But I like to analyze. I like to pull stuff apart, see how it works. I just like to do that. That's how I see lots of stuff. And so I enjoy that. I enjoy talking about it in that fashion. I enjoy talking with other people about it in that fashion. So that's why I look at it the way I do. I don't think that I'm reviewing or looking at them in a sense to try and convince somebody else of something. Unless clearly it is an argument of some sort, and I somehow think I'm really truly right, and not that there's two, different opinions on it and whatever. So rarely do I get into those arguments where I feel like I need to win a point, more so than make sure my point is heard. So yeah, and to that extent, when I'm talking about books or I'm reviewing books, or like this last week on Comic Roundtable, we were talking about Wonder Woman, which seems to run the gamut of everybody's opinions on it. Some of us love it, thought it was great. Some of us thought it was, mediocre. Some of us absolutely hate the book. And it's okay to have any of those opinions in there in the way. And if I give my opinion and my feelings about whatever it is we're talking about, I'm not giving those in a sense to try and sway somebody else to having to think my way, or to think that they have to agree with me, or that you're wrong in any sense. I do not want to give the projection of, I've been reading comics since 1976, therefore my opinion means more than somebody else's does. My opinion has more weight or whatever than somebody else's does. It's an opinion. It's an opinion. I mean, if we're talking, and facts are facts, and we clearly should all understand that. I mean, if we're talking about, when was the first issue of Superman, clearly those are facts, and we know when that first issue was produced or whatever. First time Batman appeared. Those are facts. Those aren't opinions. Those are facts. What do we think is the best Superman, or what do we think is the best Batman, or what do we think is the best Spider-Man book? Those are opinions, and we can all have different ones, and we need just to kind of agree to that we all have different ones. And it's okay. Quite honestly, I love having a conversation with people who don't view things the same way as me. I mean, it's cool. It's cool to hang out with a bunch of people that think the same way you do. And you can celebrate how awesome or how sucky something was that you participated in or read. That's all awesome. But I also enjoy having that conversation about I don't like something, you like something, or vice versa. And I'm going to ask questions, not because I'm questioning. I'm not questioning your validity to have the opinion or thought that you have. I'm questioning so I understand what it is that you're telling me. Because I want to understand that opinion, and because maybe it'll inform me better to either change my mind because I'm wrong, or I have an epiphany and suddenly, wow, I see this other side to this, and you're right, this is awesome, or this is cool, or whatever the case may be, or it helps me cement my own opinion of why I think the way I do about whatever that is. So I just want to make it clear, everybody, that that when I'm having that conversation, we're having an argument, which I don't know that's really an argument, but a discussion around a book or a subject that has to do with comic books or whatever, that that I'm not coming across as being the authority. I'm not coming across as being my way or the highway. I'm not coming across as thinking less of you because you like or don't like some book. It does not matter. As far as that goes, I don't judge a person by what you're reading or what you like, as far as reading stuff and that sort of thing goes. That's absolutely not what it's about. It's just like when I'm talking about not liking a book, I try very hard to make sure that I'm not liking a book and not attacking the creators that made the book. I mean, they can take that personally, and that's fine. That's their ownership of their work. But I think it's fair game for me to criticize the work. I paid money for it, so that's what I'm going to do. But I'm not going to criticize the person. Somebody writes something that I don't like, I'm not going to say that person is a horrible person because they wrote a book I don't care for. I'm going to say I don't care for this book. This is why I don't care for this book. If that makes, I hope that makes sense. And not that I don't think it's clear. It's just every once in a while I like to put that out there. Especially when there's been a time when there's been some level of contention as to, a bunch of us being like a round table and clearly not agreeing on what we like or don't like. And clearly some of the things that I am saying I do not like, other people are clearly saying, no, I like that. And that's okay, because we all have different tastes, and that's perfectly fine. And natural, and more than likely should be the case in a lot of cases. So, yeah. That being said, there will be a comic book roundtable this Saturday, same usual time, 6:30 Pacific time, 9:30 Eastern. I say because we suck at actually getting here on time and starting on time. We're getting better though. Partially to the fact is we're getting better at getting people invited, so that we don't spend a half an hour trying to figure out how to get the invite sent to them and get them on the show. So, that being said, some of you new people out there, want to come on the show, show your face, whatever, have some conversation with us, talk some comic books, that'd be awesome. Not sure exactly who all is going to be there this week. In the United States here, it's a holiday week. Thursday is Thanksgiving. Sometimes that gets people traveling for the long weekend. So, I'll be there. I don't know who else is going to be there. We'll see what it works out. And we'll talk this week's comics. Lots of independent comics, I think, coming out that I'm interested in. Should be cool. Should have a good time. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I don't think there is. Anyway, thanks for listening to me. Thanks for listening to me ramble and attempt to explain myself in some fashion. Hopefully I did. Clearly, if we're having a conversation about comic books and you feel like I'm, jumping up and down on you about a subject, send me a message if you don't want to be public or whatever, and let me know. Like I said, I don't think I do that. some social stuff I will get off on my own soapbox like everybody does. But as far as liking a comic book or not liking a comic book, I don't think so. But if I am, of course, someone correct me. Anyway, have a great night, and those of you in the States that are celebrating, have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and I'll see some of you on the weekend. Have a great one, everybody.